Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pash On podcast. Let's get started with your host, Brian Pash.
Hi, this is Brian Pash, and welcome to another exciting podcast session. On today's show, I have Charlie Bass. He's the Senior Vice President of Sales at CallRevu, and we're going to talk about the recent acquisition of the CallSource Automotive business. Charlie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brian. Happy to be here.
Well, Charlie, it has been a busy month plus with you. September 1st, the announcement came out that CallRevu had purchased the automotive dealer business from CallSource. And I wanted to really understand why the company did it, what's the strategic vision for the future, and how this is going to benefit our dealer customers. So if you were in an elevator going up a few floors with a dealer, what's the short version? What's the vision you have with CallRevu and the CallSource assets really building on your strong foundation?
Yeah, good question, Brian. So from my seat, I'm always thinking, how can we make the industry better? Not just, I have sales in my title, but it's not just how do we sell product to car dealers. It's how do we truly make the industry better, the buying experience better, et cetera. And obviously the phone's a big part of that. So look, we looked at CallSource and we thought, wow, we have an opportunity to truly be better together. We have a lot of similarities in our business and how we think about serving the dealer community and providing them with value and helping them find profit opportunities in the dealership. And so the more we got into it, the more similarities we found than differences, and especially with the people. So I think the people to me keep coming back. The people that we met at CallSource are phenomenal people. And as we talk to dealers, the comment we heard over and over again is that they love CallSource for the people, but just felt maybe the technology needed a little bit of work. So we thought it was a great opportunity to take the technologies of both companies and learn from each other, and take the great support staff and the account managers and the sales folks and put them all together. And our intent is to say, how can we better serve our dealer community? How can we better give them reporting and dashboards that they can consume? And so here we are, but happy to talk about it.
Great. Well, one of the questions that is always part of these type of merger acquisitions, were you able to retain most or all of the CallSource employees? Because I would have to agree with you. The feedback I've always received from dealers that they love their account management teams. They love their support.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the things you always look at is how long people have been at a company, right? That's a testament to good culture and a company that's doing the right things. So we've brought people over and yes, we brought, all the employees over and integrate them with our teams. Some of these employees had been with CallSource for 20 years, Brian, if you can believe it, and others for 10 years or 8 years or 12 years. So there was a lot of tenure. And as you can imagine, that was their family. When you spend that much time at an organization, it's not just a job, right? There's a reason you're there beyond the paycheck. So we really wanted to understand what CallSource did that was able to retain employees for that long, because that's just impressive. So when I say better together, that's the type of stuff I mean, is to learn how do we retain great employees that know our product, that can be that expert that the dealers expect when they pay us money. And how do we learn how to better serve our dealers to make sure that we, can retain our dealers and they don't have to go look for another vendor because the service isn't what they expected.
Well, that's great news because, listen, dealers always tell me one of the reasons they like PCG Digital is, our account managers, our senior account managers are now there 10 plus years. Tony Frieda, Lisa Grande. Mm-hmm. I mean, they love consistency. They hate having to retell their story to a new team. So that's great news. Let's pivot then. So if CallSource really didn't keep up with the technology side, and CallRevu has really been pioneering really state-of-the-art tech, where do you see the next level of innovation coming? How would you describe the innovation roadmap and what dealers can expect from this energized partnership?
Yeah, that's a great question, Brian. So obviously some of this is being put together in real time as we're learning more and more. But what was interesting is that, post-transaction closing and being able to really see what each other were doing, we saw some obvious things that could immediately improve the tech for dealers. And so we've already put the wheels in motion. And what I mean by that is, while CallSource on certain things, maybe they got behind, they had some stuff that was working better than us. So putting my ego aside, I'm going to say that their dashboards and reports, Brian, were better built for a general manager. And that's okay. If we can be humble and say, look, what they did was better. So then you take both those and say, okay, how do we take the best of both worlds and create one product? So there's, less tools for a dealer to log into. And so my mind is not as much about what's that next shiny object or that really cool feature that dealers are chasing. I think, we're trying to center ourselves in things like CRM integration, Brian, where dealers don't need another login to view their phones. They don't need another login to understand if they should do something with what's happening on their phones. They should be able to consume that in their CRM system with a singular login. And if there's something that needs their immediate attention, send them a quick text or whatever method they think is the best so that they can take action on it. And that would be a hot customer issue, like somebody's pissed off or car dealer just missed a great opportunity to set an appointment and sell a car.
One of the things that I think dealers don't quite understand is the deep complexities associated with auto. I've heard dealers say, "Oh, I'm using this company for call recording and measurement," and I'm like, "Who are they?" And like, "Oh, they're our cloud VoIP vendor," and "Oh, what this and that." And one of the interesting things that maybe dealers don't quite understand. CallRevu is 100% focused on auto, RV, power sports, really narrow focus to deliver high levels of integration. Do you think that is a competitive advantage or really just a distraction?
That's a tough one to answer. I think it could be either, is my gut reaction, Brian. But I agree with you. Auto's a different beast, right? We'd be silly not to explore other industries because, phones are in just about every industry, right? And, CallSource is in a lot of industries. It's a fine company and they continue to operate in a lot of industries, but even they found that auto is really hard. It's very specific. It's very focused on that outcome. And so for me, you got to have core competency to understand the different types of automotive phone calls, because it's not just the industry. You're talking about, 5 or 6 profit centers and businesses within a business that have different types of conversations, people checking on parts, wondering if there's cars ready for service, or just your general, hey, is this Toyota Camry available? Oh, you still don't have them in stock? Great. I'll call the other dealer, hang up, right? That's happening every single day. And so we know auto better than anybody. That's all we operate in. We understand the business. Our founder was a general manager of a dealership, Chip King. A lot of people have heard his name, and he's still very involved with the business and helps guide us. And what are GMs thinking? What are car dealers thinking that can help them run their business more efficiently?
Well, you mentioned the word outcomes, and so I got to bring this in. Thank you, Charlie, and the whole team at CallRevu for participating in our breakthrough research report on Google SEM campaigns as they're generally run in the United States. And one of the things we found out is that the majority of agencies in the US were not using call outcomes to optimize ad campaigns. They were just using call clicks or call volume and not understanding what those outcomes were. We looked at some research that said less than 13% of all sales campaign phone calls were for sales, the majority for service and parts. And now it's so great that you've stepped up to work with our agency on a pilot for the upcoming Automotive Analytics and Attribution Summit in November to actually start pushing into Google Analytics the completed call, whether it was for sales, service, parts, or body shop. That's a breakthrough because now we have true signals to send to Google Ads to, well, determine whether a campaign is working or not. Charlie, why do you think the industry has been so distracted by just, hey, a call was made, and not understanding, as you clearly said, there's 4 or 5 business units within the dealership. We need to know what that phone call was all about.
Yeah, that's a hot topic for me too, Brian. I mean, call outcomes. I mean, this is going back to, primarily I've spent my career on the digital advertising side for, 20 years in this business. And that was something where, oftentimes we get dealers pressing us and they'd say, it's great that you got me 500 phone calls, Charlie, but what happened? How many cars did we sell? Right? Sound familiar, Brian?
Yeah, for
Or,
sure.
we were scrambling to figure out, okay, how do we classify sales versus service? That's step one. So if you haven't gotten there as a dealer, I mean, that is step one. And I'm not here to sell anything to anybody. If people want free advice or a checkup or anything, we're here to help and to help guide dealers, even if you don't buy product from us. Like, happy to give advice on any of that stuff because it's a passion of ours. But those call outcomes are so critical. And Brian, I'm hot on service just because I think that is just such an opportunity, especially with the inventory challenges that we continue to face. I mean, service, if you think about the different types of calls, I mean, when you dig into those outcomes, I mean, how many times did somebody call your dealership and say, hey, is my vehicle ready for pickup? Because if that happens 50 times a day, think about how much time you're spending answering those phone calls and the customer experience when there's tools out there that dealers can implement where a customer could go onto their website and just check to see if there's vehicles ready, or the dealer could be more proactive. So those are CSI and SSI concerns that we can surface to the dealer and address very, very quickly.
Well, I'm glad you brought up service because just my experience the other day here in Florida, I was having some battery issues with my vehicle. I called the dealer I bought the car from three times over 2 days, never could get through. And finally, on the end of day 3, they called and said, oh, by the way, I hear you're having a problem with the car. And by then I had already taken it to another franchise dealer because, I need this car fixed. Their phone system was horrible. And the fact that this is still a common problem at a time where dealers have the ultimate window of opportunity to retool their business. They're making maximum profits with the least amount of people, and they really should be retooling. So, Charlie, when we think of fixed ops, and the fact now that we can see in all our marketing campaigns, not just how many phone calls, but what those phone calls were for, wouldn't you agree that based on the data that you're seeing, that dealers who I'd say skimp on sending out like text notifications for vehicles that are ready or offering electronic payments, aren't they just blowing up their phones and literally creating a almost hostile environment for service advisors to work in because they can't focus on what's important because they're distracted by the menial?
Yeah, you're spot on. And if you think about the peak times, 7, 8 a.m. and, 3, 4, 5 o'clock when they're delivering vehicles and dealing with the customer in front of them, if they don't have those systems in place, to your point, either a text message or a quick way to log on and see, or a live chat tool where your chat agents actually know your service capacity and what the vehicle status, not a, hey, let me go check and get somebody to call you back. Because again, those communication points, people expect more. People want right now. They want to know, is my vehicle ready? And a few clicks away, know what's going on with it. So I know that's a common one in dealers that maybe haven't invested in that technology, or maybe their shop's running at capacity. And, when they're on the phone with customers that say, hey, I want to get my vehicle in for service, they say, great, we're booking next week. Is Tuesday or Wednesday better? I know I personally, you made your comment. Personally, I hang up the phone and say, great, I'll call you back, let you know what time my wife's available to bring my vehicle in. And I'm calling the next dealership to see who can get me in this week, not next. And so to give dealers insight into capacity, now, quick caveat, we're not quite there yet. This is some of the stuff we're building out, but to give dealers insight into capacity and how much business they're truly missing can help them make better business decisions. Should I invest those dollars in building more service bays and buying the equipment? Does my business support it? Things like that.
Well, I was just visiting a dealership in Georgia last week, and this dealer had a huge service facility and was building a second football field size service facility because of just that. They're actively marketing service, and they are staffing extended hours, and they still can't get ahead of the curve. And that's why it's so important for these signals to be able to be rolled up to management on how customers are reaching out. What are they reaching out for? What is our marketing doing? What type of marketing outcomes are happening? We know, by the way, that phones are the number one conversion channel for all online marketing, regardless of what anyone tells you. Phone calls are 4-to-1 or even 5-to-1 more common than someone filling out a lead form. And yet we still have not given management team the proper reporting to coach, train, and improve our retail efficiency. That's where CallRevu comes in. Now, Charlie, in November, the CallRevu team will be at the Automotive Analytics and Attribution Summit. Obviously, people are going to be talking about this new acquisition and what the future is. What are you coming to the show to bring? What story do you want to share with dealers that you believe is timely and absolutely worth dealers to attend?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of what we've talked about, Brian. Our big thing is we want to focus on these really, really big challenges that continue to plague us as an industry, and we want to solve them. And I know it's hard, but I feel like if we can solve this, we're going to propel the industry forward. We're going to help dealers be more efficient, make more money, make more informed and smarter advertising decisions, better staffing decisions. I'm on a mission. I think that we have an opportunity here to really help guide dealers through, post-pandemic and in this inventory shortage. The phones are critical, like more than ever before. And my biggest concern, Brian, is that we're seeing similar trends that we see often in time when times are tough is dealers stick their head in the sand and they say, I'm not changing anything. I don't have inventory. And that's not everybody, right? We've got a lot of progressive stores that continue to find innovative ways to sell cars and make money. But that concerns me, right? I think you made a comment like now is the time to look at tools and to look at your process and say, what could be improved and how can I be best prepared for when inventory catches up to make sure I'm not caught on the other side holding a bunch of inventory and put myself out of business potentially. So I think now's the time that even if you're not in the market to buy, you should be looking at your phones. And that doesn't mean come look at CallRevu. Look, this is not a sales pitch. It's do yourself a favor, look at the phones and do you really have a grasp on those call outcomes and start there? Because if you can own that, you're going to be significantly ahead of the curve and really be set up well in 2022.
I would agree, I was down in Georgia at a Toyota dealer, and you know what? The general manager's attitude was so refreshing. He's like, yeah, I'm limited in new cars, but I am super aggressive. I'm buying a few hundred used cars a month. And he showed me his used car buying team. He had a couple stations with multiple screens. He had all the auction schedules. And he said, Brian, listen, you see this? And it was this cool cement gray. I think it's called Moon Rock, Toyota, Tacoma, TRD. And he was like, you see this car right here? I bought 10 of these. I paid $6,000 over sticker and I made $5,000 a copy. And when I bought them, I thought, oh, maybe I'm a little crazy. And 8 out of the 10 that I bought were sold before they got on the lot. And what I realized is demand hasn't changed. Consumer demand hasn't changed. It's how you acquire, even though it may seem crazy to you right now, people are willing to spend. People need cars. And so we need to continually challenge ourselves as an industry to think out of the box, to be creative, to hit maximum operational efficiency, to maximize the market opportunity. Will things calm down? Yes. Will dealers be spending $5,000 or $6,000 over MSRP for a lightly used car? No, but that's what's working right now. And guess what? Phone calls are up. And here's the reason why. Consumers go to a dealer's website, see very limited inventory. They scratch their head. Some people know that there's a shortage. Other people, believe it or not, have been living on some other planet. They don't know. They're calling like, do you have a Toyota Camry in stock? No, we don't have a single one. That's impossible. Why is that? How do we answer those calls? Now, of course, I have some ideas, training, and scripts that I've been sharing with our customers that are effective because here's what consumers want. They want to be helped through this difficult time. And we need to pivot our strategies. There's no sense investing totally on buyback campaigns, because when the consumer says, well, do you have a car to sell me? Like, no, I don't. So we have to pivot. And I think that at a time where dealers are making maximum profit with the least amount of employees, with the least amount of overhead, this is the time to retool. And so, Charlie, I'm really looking forward to your session at the Automotive Analytics and Attribution Summit. And remember, listeners of our podcast can lock in a discount to the AAAS. Just email me, Brian@brianpash.com, and I'll be happy to send you a special listener discount code. Well, Charlie, I can't wait to see what the innovations will be coming out of this new larger energized company. And we'll definitely have to have you back for a follow-up in Q1 of next year. How does that sound?
That sounds great, Brian. And looking forward to seeing you and the team and the dealers out at AAAS.
Great. Well, if this is the first time you're listening to one of our podcasts, you should know that we interview industry leaders, disruptors, and breaking news in the automotive industry with a focus on marketing and technology. So make sure you check out past episodes of our show. And if you have a suggestion for a show topic or a leader you believe is making, new ground for automotive retail, drop me a note, Brian@brianpash.com, and let's see if we can get that person on the air. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. Look forward to spending time with you again on a future Pash podcast.